Little pinto beans. How are we? The nickname came back. Unsurprisingly, it is a random food. And that is how I express my affection here. I missed you guys. I missed my little pinto beans. Today, I don't know if this fits in with beans, probably not. It's looking like it's all about pentacles, baby. This manifestation through the physical, this purpose, this material shifting for you. And you probably already feel that. That's what's coming through strongest. Some of you might be underwhelmed and some might be overwhelmed. Professionally in your career, there is under and overwhelm themes, and both have a place in today's reading, it's looking like. So I don't want to waste anyone's time. So let's start with just discerning if you have a message here today with me. This is for someone or a lot of someones who feel change is not just coming, but it's inevitable. It's not like woo-woo. It's not like I feel something big. It is almost like at this point where you know, just to some extent, what is happening for you is not sustainable in a literal way. It's not like it's bad. It's very practical. It feels very logical. Like just what you are doing right now could not go on indefinitely. And so that's how you know something is about to change or something's coming. It's an unsuitable long-term feeling. And that could look different for everyone, right? This is like energy of like a temporary job. It is just paying bills, living in a temporary space, doing something you know cannot last forever, whatever it is. Right now, particularly in your life, and this could be professional since that's the emphasis here, is like this is not the end all be all in some way. It might not feel unbearable. There might be a sense that it's okay, especially for some of you. There's different responses here for the same temporary type of circumstance. Like some of you feel you did this, you're in control, and then others of you don't feel like it's bearable. That's where this overwhelm and underwhelm is coming through. Some of you are literally just fine. You know what's coming. This temporary thing, the circumstance is not bad. And then there's this other part of you that's like seeing a logical expiration date. Like you signed a literal short-term lease. Some of you, it could be very literal. You have an end date in mind. So this reading, it looks like it's not necessarily an unhappy feeling. You are not necessarily needing it to end, but you just know this is not the end. And so the way that this is relating to Pentacles energy or just like what's coming, the midheaven energy professionally is coming up very strong, purpose. It is what to prepare for when this thing arrives. And it also might be answering why you've been in this temporary state for so long, if that's something you want an answer to. Some of you did this yourself intentionally, so you already know that. It just really seems like there's a unique structure to a lot of your career paths. Like you're not supposed to take the shape of what's expected, and that's causing a lot of friction for you. I see here, it's causing a lot of friction with this delay. So you might be in a space right now where your career is not where you want it ideally, but you know it's not going to last. If that sounds like you, welcome to your reading, my little baby beans. I feel like when random nicknames kind of come to me, sometimes they have a place in the reading, but I'm not exactly sure what a pinto bean and how that would relate to your professional development, but I'll leave that to your interpretation. So the first thing that's hitting really hard here with this reading is a dreamlike visualization, an emotional one at that. It's very interesting, but it is setting the groundwork for your career, your professional life, because it's showing me sort of where you've been. It's you. You are entering a class. You've never it looks like been in that class or had previous knowledge of this classroom. It is you just entering this new world that you've never been in, but everybody else has been there prior. They've had history. They've had continuation of that classroom, and you're entering when they are taking a test of all things. So you walk in from what it's seeming like here. And everyone sort of ignores your presence. They're continuing with this test. It's very indifferent energy for them. And you the emotions that's coming through with this, you're kind of panicking because you don't have any preparation. You didn't have any knowledge. This is a new environment to you. And you're sort of being held to this expectation that everybody else is in while they're taking this test like nothing's happening. So even the smartest people need to prepare to some degree, right? You're panicking because you know deep down you're not going to pass this test. And from what it's looking like here, you try to sit down, you try to struggle, you are sort of pretending to match the indifference that you feel. But the interesting part of this visualization is a moment of clarity. You have this moment of, wait, what am I doing? And rightfully so, I think. So this sort of visualization ends with you getting up and walking out. And everyone was indifferent when you came, and they're indifferent to when you leave as well. No one really cares here. That's the most interesting part about what I'm being shown. No one cares. And so symbolically, this is showing me a lot of things. A couple of things that are really important is it's showing me that you have spent a lot of time trying to fit into a predefined mold, a structure that existed before you even got there. Like when you sit down and you try to take this test, but you are not prepared and you have never been in this environment prior, you continue to do it, even though it feels deeply wrong. It feels like you're sort of ignoring this internal unfairness that exists where you're panicking, and you continue with indifference because everyone else is. It's showing me in the past, even if it didn't feel aligned and you were not set up for success, you continued. But there's a shift here very recently where you've stopped doing that. This dream, this visualization, what's being shown is it's saying others fit into this structure without question, without emotion, but you're arriving after the rules have been set and you are noticing them because you didn't have that prior exposure. The arrival and the lack of context is the most important part of this. Is it's showing me you are on a different playing field entirely. That awareness to what is happening is the priority here. You can't fit into the structure because you're coming from an entirely different one. And so in the simplest way I can describe how important this visualization is, you're not unprepared. You don't need to try harder, study harder, and maybe you felt that way in the past is like maybe you need more discipline. What's really happening here is you are being asked to look at why you are coming in late in the first place, not the feelings you have when you are late and unprepared. And I think that the timing here is what's important because you're arriving from a space that didn't have the rules and you're able to sort of notice them for a reason. And I think Spirit's pointing at that awareness to them is what is showing you are meant to change rules, not abide by them, where others are not noticing the rules. They're not indifferent to them. They're just like kind of mindlessly obeying them. You're coming in from a different playing field so you can notice them. And so, I mean, this is super layered. I'm seeing a couple of things set the stage for this reading. You, in the past, have clearly spent a lot of time jumping around professionally or being in temporary spaces professionally where it's not the end all be all and you are conscious of that. You are aware of that. This is because you are operating from a different space where you arrive later than others, similar to this test you're sort of taking with them. You're coming from a different space and arriving later like this. What it does is it's so funny. You're often respected more. If you think about it, like from what you've experienced, when others kind of come in late, they have a different energy, right? There's a respect to that energy in a way that we can't quite understand or like a curiosity about that. But you're often really highly misunderstood because of this different space that you come in with. So it's two parts. You're respected, people are intrigued by you, but you're often highly misunderstood. So in your career, you have maybe noticed not being heard the first time around. I see this being a common theme that maybe you've been in the past, is like feeling like you have to over-explain things, explain it another time. Communication is being highlighted in the sense where in careers, you're sort of over-explaining, where you can't quite understand why people aren't grasping it. It is because of this different energy that you come with. It causes misunderstandings because you're coming from an entirely different place than most other people are. People simply just cannot understand the logic of that space. It's a different energy than their own or what they're used to. And I think that misunderstanding energy, especially in workplaces, is causing a little friction with your mentality. It looks like both having temporary professional spaces and then also being misunderstood and having to over-explain has caused a little bit of like either anxiety or a bad experience with work overall. Professionally, you feel, there's always friction or something happening. So there's something here about just either being completely underwhelmed by work or overwhelmed by it. It's not a neutral emotion necessarily. And I think it has to do with this misunderstanding or different playing field that you come from. So I think this first part is just trying to clearly explain that you walk in late, you walk in unprepared, and it's not a matter of needing to prepare harder to fit in or change your methods. It is simply showing the different playing fields, where you come from and why. And it cannot be changed by trying harder, by preparing more. It means you're just operating from this level for a reason that your guides want you to pay attention to, especially upcoming. And so I'll talk about why this playing field, this different energy is so important and how it's going to come up in the near future. I'm feeling a lot of different details that are coming up, so I'm going to have to put a lot in the description. Just a word to those who maybe are new. I write a lot of novellas in my descriptions for you, always. And that's really to just not go on too many tangents and confuse too many people. I like to keep the messages clear and then leave the details somewhere else. It's interesting because this shift is very recent to you. This recognizing you're taking a test without being prepared and getting up and walking out, it is showing me a shift, but also a new intolerance for structures that feel unfair or that leave you in this disadvantaged state. Meaning you could be entering these career spaces with less and less tolerance, especially if you've noticed that you are continuously transitioning, like what I'm seeing here. Like these spaces are always temporary, or you find out when you enter them, okay, this isn't my long term, so I don't really have a lot of tolerance for this. They now just don't feel important to you because of how many you've gone through maybe, or how often these frictions happen, like with miscommunication or over-explaining, or people misunderstand you. There's just a buildup of intolerance now, less care, less ability to tolerate. Okay. And I think that this is good because this intolerance is sort of pushing you further and further away from these structures that you're not meant to be in long term. The intolerance is sort of pushing you. And I think that it's important. It's not a lack of anything. So overall, what I'm seeing is a long time that you've spent in this effort space in the past, trying to prepare better to take this test, even though you come in later and it's a completely unfair playing field. Meaning you've spent a lot of time in the past trying to preemptively prepare for late arrival. Like you could do that. You see the friction of how you come to class, but instead of walking out, you've sort of in the past been trying to take the test as best you can. And I see you can do it, which is, ridiculous for so many reasons because you're not meant to take the test. The message here is showing me the shift is now mid-test. You're saying, what am I doing? That's the shift. This could be current or this could be upcoming, the shift. You will humor it for a second. You'll get overwhelmed, like being in that environment, but then you stop, you walk out, you don't continue to take the test. It's showing me you're in a space where you're fully accepting this aspect of yourself, this late arrival. You maybe don't understand it consciously yet, but you're not pretending to fit in and take the test anymore. You're not feeling embarrassed. You're noticing, you're standing up, you're walking out. This is unfair. And so this shift, this getting up and walking out, it is going to have a profound effect of where you go in the short and long term. I see this rippling into your career. This not having a tolerance for inequality anymore and not blaming yourself for arriving late. It is, you see it is unfair. And instead of trying harder, you're removing the effort entirely. And it's showing a shift in opportunities around you for this energy you're sort of now in where you don't tolerate it. By doing this, by having no tolerance, by not taking the test, you're commanding energy to fit you instead of forcing it where it didn't fit before. I see a sort of warning too in today's message about something you're either already doing or will continue to adjust moving forward. It's a friction here about your purpose bucket and your money bucket of all things. It's showing me that you could be channeling this intolerance that your higher self is giving you into the wrong place upcoming. What this means is your higher self wants you to actively move away from conventional jobs or structures that were built before you got there, because you're meant to create those spaces. You're meant to make them yourself, not abide by them. And so you might intentionally be putting this intolerance energy into how you earn income, even slightly. So this looks like needing the income you make to fit in with the purpose that you feel you have. You want them to be together. You have an intolerance for them being apart. Your guides are saying there's a pressure here to create a bucket that earns a living, but also fulfills your deepest purpose. If you have that, if you relate to that, if you resonate, that might be hindering you, especially in the near upcoming, especially as energy is now shifting around you. It's like you're commanding energy to move, but you're still trying to force it in a very specific way it's not meant to in the near future, not in the far future. I'll say this in another way because it's kind of confusing. There's a message here that you will have the same bucket in the future where you earn money and it also is in line with your higher purpose. But for the earlier stages where you begin to have this intolerance, if this hasn't already happened for you, you might feel you have an intolerance right now from earning money that does not feel at your higher purpose. And there's a message here that there's a temporary time where you need to separate them, not permanently, very temporarily. So a confirmation if you're already doing this, a double confirmation if you're feeling less tolerant of them being separate. That is telling you clearly they need to be separate for a temporary time to build this. This is your sign to kind of consider separating them cleanly for a temporary time only, especially if you feel intolerance to that happening. That's very important. So this kind of looks like one bucket is just income. You just make money from this bucket. It is nothing more. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be your identity. It doesn't have to be some grand expression. It is just earning income. It can be mindless work. It can feel beneath you. It can feel beneath your skills. It is just serving this expense need only. And I think Spirit wants you to draw this line if you haven't already. Some of you I see have made this separation, and this is a confirmation to you. But those who are struggling with that separation and feel like rebellious towards that, this is to nudge you forward in separating just for a temporary time, to know it's temporary. If you feel intolerance to earning income that isn't the purest expression of you right now, it's looking like this might hinder your path. This will be combined in the future. I see that it's inevitable. However, there's a starting place where they need to be separate in order to reveal the path of them being together in the future. There's some sort of early complexity if you try to combine them too early that your guides want you to hear right now. So very clear message, very detailed, very specific. Separate those two temporarily for them to later be combined clearly. There's also a big emphasis here on a specific placement, a midheaven. I'm going to put it in the description. It could be quite literal in your chart. That could be why it's coming through. It's really showing me that you're not driven by status. You don't really care what people think about you. It's very non-ego driven here. You're driven by purpose and meaningful work. And right now that is conflicting with you making money in some way, at least for some of you. Some of you might be on the path, and I'm just confirming that. But the two need to live harmoniously together, I think. And the first step for that is to separate them clearly. So there's paths here where you get both a meaningful career, a purpose, and you also get to pay your bills effortlessly with that. It exists. It maybe you're on the start of it right now, but I just keep seeing this message to separate those buckets. It's very important. And for you to know that just because you earn with mindless work or something you feel is beneath you, that does not mean that it'll always be that way. In fact, often that's what someone needs to do to combine them in the future, from what I usually see in like life path readings. So here's the message today. Very important, very big shift from you. This intolerance to continue to take the test in this unfair environment where you have walked in late. It is showing me something so meaningful is shifting in how you are feeling and how you are commanding energy. This warning, there's just a matter of not slowing down this progression of commanding the energy by forcing it to also pay bills right now, if that is something you resonate with. The first part is acceptance of these separate things. Some of you I see already have that. You're on the way to do that, but some of you are struggling with that. You want it to be together. You want it to be together right now. I see that. But really, from what I see here, the reason things are so temporary for you, the reason there's friction, there's common misunderstandings is you are meant to be writing the test. You are not meant to be taking the test. And that is why it's so confusing and has a lot of friction that maybe a lot of other people in comparison don't experience. Like you walk in to take this test and everybody else just seems fine. They're indifferent. They're taking the test. They're not questioning it. It's confusing because most people are meant to take the test. They're not meant to write it. They're not meant to create the rules. And there's no clear rule book for those who are meant to write the test. You'll just be kind of given these subtle indications you're on the right path. You'll need a lot more messages as you go through this ambiguity, this uncertainty, these temporary paths, because there's not a lot of examples of this sort of thing. Most people just go into the classroom, take the test, don't ask questions, move on. And so your guides want you to hear today, your path is going to have a little bit more friction in a career sense, especially with this placement I'm being shown. You are meant to create the rules. There's no clear guidance for that necessarily, except for confirmations that these temporary things are shifting in your favor. They're shifting because you are meant to have active purpose, meaningful work, and make a living through those things. And that doesn't happen very often. Most people just settle. Most people ignore and just take the test and live unhappy lives. That's not the case for you. And so because of that, it's going to look a lot more volatile. It's going to have a lot more friction. It's going to have a lot more temporary trial and error. And that is all good. These are all active signs that you are doing something very important. For this next part, I was not going to actually record a segue, but a lot of you yell at me because I'm so unhinged sometimes that I just like stop things abruptly and don't have transitions. And, you know, I'm like raw and unfiltered. So this next part is going to be an experiment. I guess it's just a sample of what I'm providing for my lightly salted babies with memberships. I am establishing different containers, different buckets. And what has been coming through the most clearly is very specific hertz frequencies, because a lot of you are on very high advanced paths for healing. And when you get to higher consciousness and when you get to these more advanced stages, you require different tools than most. And so these are very specific frequencies, and they'll have very hyper specific messages of things that are coming through that are random. And so these tools are meant to support you specifically. They are very personalized. They are hyper specific. And this is just going to be a little sample of that. And if you're interested, I have a link in the description and you are welcome to stay through the entire thing. And I love you so much, a ridiculous amount. Anyway, that's coming up next. Cheers, friends.